what is up? This has been Falcon's Media Corner, and welcome back to yet another double movie review, aka After I Saw, in which I'm going to be talking about two movies I did see in the past few days. This week, I saw one movie on Amazon Prime on Sunday, and I saw another movie which was on Netflix on Monday. And these are new releases that came out this year in 2021. So these two movies I'm talking about are Without Remorse and Things Heard and Seen. So let's kick off with Without Remorse. So Without Remorse, this is the newest Tom Clancy novel to the big screen, except that this one, unfortunately, is the only Tom Clancy novel that wasn't released on the big screen, like the other previous ones we've had, like The Sum of All Fears and Jack Ryan's Shadowy Crew. This unfortunately had to be released on Amazon Prime due to the pandemic, even though it was originally made by Paramount, but then Amazon bought the rights to this film. So let's continue on with this review. So in this newest installment of the Tom Clancy novel series, novel movie series, we've basically see this Navy SEAL agent named John Clark, played by Michael B. Jordan, who apparently he is paying back revenge after his pregnant wife was murdered by a Russian hitman. And we also see him trying to basically seeing these conspiracy theories he's having, like thinking about like who could this Russian hitman be, if it's anyone from his past or anything like that, and also trying to figure out like why did he do this act as well. And meanwhile, there's this whole in and out war going on between the United States and Russia as well. So that's pretty much the story of Without Remorse. So for me going into this film, I didn't know what to expect from this one. I thought this was just going to be some your generic action blockbuster like we usually get sometimes, which we usually get that in the summer, even though this was released in spring anyway. But like I said, I just went in with an open mind, even though even though I've never read any of the Tom Clancy novels before, even though I did see one of their films before, which was The Sum of All Fears with Morgan Freeman and Ben Affleck, and I enjoyed that movie. I thought that movie was actually a pretty good espionage thriller. And I've never seen Jack Ryan's Shadowy Crew with Chris Pine from 2014, but that movie looks pretty decent. It looks like it could be a half decent action espionage thriller, but I'll see for myself when I do check out that movie at some point. Although I was really surprised with the cast members, so I was very surprised who were part of this movie. You got like Michael B. Jordan, which I think he's a really cool actor. I liked him in Chronicle. He did alright in Fantastic. He was awesome as the villain in Black Panther, and he's damn awesome as Creed in the Creed movies, and I can't wait for the third Creed movie that he's going to be making. And he's done some dramatic works outside of those kind of like action blockbuster roles that I've mentioned. Like I've only seen like one dramatic work he's done, which I went to see in cinema. I saw in cinemas last year in 2020 in January, and that was Just Mercy, starring him and Jamie Foxx and Brie Larson. And that movie was great, although it did make me cry when I saw it in the cinemas back in 2020. And then for other actors who were part of this movie, you got Jamie Bell from Billy Elliot, which I think he was great in Billy Elliot. He did alright in Fantastic as well, and he was also in Peter Jackson's King Kong, Jumper, and of course Rocket Man, which I've already reviewed Rocket Man. If you want to know what I thought of Rocket Man, you can check it out on my channel if you guys would like to know what I thought of the film itself. And for other actors, you've got like Jodie Turner-Smith, which I felt she was fantastic in Queen and Slim, and I was really looking forward to seeing what else she would do after she's done that role, because I thought she was fantastic in that movie along with Daniel Kaluuya. So I was looking forward to seeing what she could do in the future. And you also have Guy Pearce, which I haven't seen him in a while, but I think he's a really good actor. I liked him in Christopher Nolan's Memento, which I thought he was great in that. And you also have him in Iron Man 3 as well. So, like I said, I watched this on Amazon Prime on Sunday, and this movie, it was alright. It wasn't awful, it wasn't terrible, it's not the worst I've seen of this year, next to other ones I didn't like this year, but this one was mediocre. It wasn't the best in the Tom Clancy novels I've seen so far, even though I've only seen just one of them, which is, like I said, Sum of All Fears, which I think is personally my favorite so far. But this one, it was alright. It wasn't, like I said, it wasn't atrocious or anything. It's just mainly the biggest problem with this movie. It's its story. The story has the exact same formula for these kind of revenge kind of stories we've seen it before, like the Taken movies with Liam Neeson, which I like the first one, but the sequels I wasn't really a fan of. I just mainly preferred the first one over the second and third installment of Taken. And for other revenge stories we've had, like Max Payne and all that, and many of the kind of action movies we get nowadays try to do that, although sometimes they do work and sometimes they just don't really work because of having its exact like copy and paste story. This film did do that, although it just mainly took place in a different setting, which is sort of an espionage setting. It involves, you know, agents and spies in this film. From all of that, the acting in this movie, I thought all the actors I gave all their solid performances enough for their characters. Like Michael B. Jordan, I thought he was still cool. I thought he was pretty cool in the movie, especially for his action sequences, which his choreographed like fight sequences he does in the movie are pretty entertaining. There are some like passable action sequences that I enjoyed. I mean, like the action sequences, there was some entertaining ones, and there was a few that were passable, and there was no atrocious action sequences that are directed so poorly bad. There was just some that I found a bit memorable, and there was a few that I couldn't remember as much when I was watching this movie. However, for the other actors in the film, like Jamie Bell, Jodie Turner-Smith, and Guy Pearce, I thought they all gave solid performances enough for their characters, but I would say the best one it's just Michael B. Jordan for the most part. And for, like I said, the action sequences, I thought the action sequences were, like I said, entertaining, and there was some passable ones, but I didn't expect like these action sequences to be violent and gritty, but I was expecting just some kind of like PG-13, 12 style action sequences, but no, this is a violent and gritty film, in which I liked it when they showed that in the opening scene, as well as a few other scenes, like in the prison cell scene, and as well as like the car chases and all that. I thought those scenes were kind of memorable enough for me for the most part, but in the end, though, with Remorse, it was mediocre. It wasn't awful. It wasn't garbage. It's not an atrocious Tom Clancy book to movie I've seen, but it was alright for the most part. It's just the end. The story just has the exact same formula for these kind of revenge stories, but set in different settings. And it has some solid acting for the most part, and some entertaining action sequences, although there were some that were passable enough that just kind of had me forgetting the most part for this film. So I'm going to give Without Remorse 2.5 out of 5 for being just a mediocre action espionage thriller. Now let's kick off with Things Heard and Seen. So Things Heard and Seen, this is a new 2021 horror film released by Netflix, and this is sort of like a newest horror film set in an old home in an old like abandoned home that we've seen before, like What Lies Beneath and You Should Have Left. And this is a new horror film based off a book, and this is also based off the same. And that book is based off the same name as this title of this film. And this was written and directed by Shari Spring, Berman, and Robert Pulcini. And this basically tells the story of this woman named Catherine, played by Amanda Seyfried, and her husband George, played by James Norton. And basically, they move from the big city of Manhattan to the quiet hometown of Manhattan, out to this new quiet hometown outside of the big area of Manhattan, where they buy this new home. And basically we see George getting a new job working as a college teacher, and where we see Catherine isolating herself from her husband, being an artist. And meanwhile, while they are settling in this whole home, there's basically a dark secret holding inside this household, and there's also a dark secret holding in the family's past. So we see a whole bunch of like creepy craziness stuff that happens throughout the entire film. So that's pretty much the plot of Things Heard and Seen. Now for me, going into this one, I didn't know what to expect from this one. I wasn't like excited for this film. I just didn't know what to expect from it, even though I do love horror. Horror is one of my favorite genres, next to like superheroes and sci-fi comedies and all that. I'd say horror is probably my second or third favorite genre of movies, but although I am a fan of Amanda Seyfried. I think she's a talented actress. I've seen a few like good hits I liked her in, like Mean Girls and Les Miserables, and most recently Mank, which I thought she was great in those movies. And she has done some other roles that not really people maybe talk about much, but I kind of enjoyed her in, like the Mamma Mia movies. Although I'm not a fan of them, to be honest. I didn't mind the first one. I didn't hate the first one. I thought the first one was kind of pretty decent movie, but the second one I liked it a lot more than the first one. I thought that one was a lot better than the first, and I liked her in as well in the Ted 2 and Scoob and all those kind of other roles that not many much people talk about, but I do like her as an actress though. And for James Norton, I don't think I've seen him in anything else, but I think he's a talented actor. And you also have like F. Murray Abraham, who's an Oscar winner, and Karen Allen as well, which you got some pretty good talented names in this film. And I didn't realize this was based off a book until I started watching this movie on Netflix, which I did watch this on Monday in the morning. And this movie, I'm gonna have to be the same thing as well with Remorse, because this one was alright as well. This one wasn't. It's not the worst horror film I've seen this year. It's definitely not an atrocious one. I mean, there were some issues I did have, and it wasn't like outrageously awful. There was just like issues for me. I wasn't like angry or anything when I was watching this movie for those kind of issues that were showing up on screen, which made me a bit tired or anything. I just felt like I can see where it was coming and going. It's the story. It did feel lackluster at best because again, it's based off a book, and the film being 2 hours and 1 minute, it did feel like it was way too stretched out, and felt in the pacing of that felt being a bit mixture of being slow as well as being fast. It just goes a bit fast and then just slow. Like for me while I was watching this, and it did nearly make me a bit tired while I was watching it, even though I wasn't like I'm just gonna turn this off and I just don't want to watch this. It wasn't like that for me, because I was like waiting for something that was like trying to make me like, okay, I'll see if I appreciate that in the movie, but it just really takes it just kind of took its time to get to any of those scenes, like especially towards its finale, which I won't spoil for the way what happens, but for the finale I can see it was like I can see where it's coming and going, because there are some cliche predictable moments you can see where it's coming and going, and it wasn't like it's not like I can tell where this is going. It wasn't like that for me. I was just like But overall, the story, it wasn't awful. It's not like a terrible written story. It wasn't like as worse than what I saw back with Remorse, which again, I thought the formula for that story I thought the story for that film has the exact same formula, but this one, it just felt like it did have a bit of potential, but it just felt lackluster at best. But the acting for the most part, I thought everyone gave pretty good, strong performances, like Amanda Seyfried and James Norton. I thought them two leads gave their strong performances enough. And the character development, I understand the character development for those characters the most, except for the other characters who we don't know much in the film, like Karen Allen's character or F. Murray Abraham's character, or any of the other characters really, because some of the other characters didn't feel that memorable for me, except for the two main leads, Catherine and George. But the characterization for the character of George, it was obviously where you could see where it's coming and going from, where you're not like rooting over anything for him, because some things start to get a bit bizarrely weird with his character, which I was like, knew it, but I wasn't like angry when I saw it. I was just like, in a calm way, I was like, I knew what he was gonna do. But the jump scares, however, there were some decent ones, and there wasn't like any jump scares that are like way too loud and generic that I've seen 1,000 times. But the jump scares, they were decent for the most part, and there were some ones that were alright for the most part. It's mainly for the effects, which the effects I thought were decent for the most part, and they weren't messy or anything. I just thought the effects for those kind of like ghostly jump scares that happen in this film were alright. So in the end, things heard and seen, yeah, this movie was alright. It wasn't as worse than any of the horror films we've had before, like Set in an Old Home, which has a secret, which I've seen a few ones before, like What Lies Beneath, for example, which I think that film is a bit underrated, and I think it's one of Robert Zemeckis' most underrated films. It's a really good like supernatural ghost horror film with Harrison Ford and Michelle Pfeiffer from 2000. I would recommend that one, but if you're a fan of these kind of movies, I could recommend this one. I'm just not entirely sure. Even though if you're a fan of Amanda Seyfried, I would recommend it for those who are a fan of her, or any of these other actors who you may know who are involved with this movie. So that's pretty much all I have to say about Things Heard and Seen. So for my rating for this movie, Things Heard and Seen, I'm gonna have to be with the exact same as Without Remorse. I'm gonna give Things Heard and Seen a 2.5 out of 5. All for being just a mediocre horror thriller for the most part. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, for both my reviews on Without Remorse and Things Heard and Seen, and let me know what you think of any of these movies. If you've seen these movies already, they already just came out a couple of days ago, so let me know what you think of them. For Without Remorse, did you enjoy this, or were you let down with it? And for Things Heard and Seen, did you had a pretty good time with it, or were you just disappointed with that one? So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for my next AK After a Store review, which I'm not sure what I'm going to be seeing next, but I'm looking forward to more new releases very soon, especially with cinemas reopening. I especially can't wait with big releases coming out like Cruella, which that comes out on Disney Plus for premium access, as well as mainly being released in cinemas. And especially I'm looking forward to A Quiet Place Part 2. I'm so hyped for that film. I've been so hyped for it since 2020, since it was supposed to come out last year, even though, of course, with what's going on with the world right now. But I'm very happy that it's coming out this month. And the new trailer dropped by, which I'll probably do a reaction video to that. I'll be doing that after I've done this review. So, as always, this has been Foggin's Media Corner signing off.